Hi and welcome back to Take a Left, the podcast by Socialists and Democrats in the European Parliament. I'm Irene de la Puerta.
I'm Alex White. So, Hungary banned Pride, but we went anyway, and so did over 200,000 people, many of them risking prosecution, fines and imprisonment.
Il Presidente!
Ma cos'è la sinistra?
The resolution is adopted.
Marc Angel was there. This is Marc. He's the co-chair of the European Parliament's LGBTI cross-party intergroup. He was in Hungary. Marc, how was it?
Well, first of all, hi, Irene and Alex. It was amazing. I still have goosebumps when I think of it and when I see the images here behind us on the screens. It was amazing. It was, for me, a wonderful experience that I wouldn't have missed. To see all these people on the streets and allies, families with children, grandparents, people in wheelchairs, people with disabilities, the whole society. It was intergenerational. It was like, it was a very strong message, and you felt it. It was to support the LGBTIQ plus community, but it was also to support the European values, our rule of law, and to protest against Orbán's policy to try to restrict, to ban the right to assemble, and all what the people in Hungary have been through the last years. So you really felt this hunger for freedom, and it was so peaceful. The craziest thing was, before we were a bit nervous, because the police had the authorization. It was given to 4 fascist groups to have counter demonstrations, and this was banned. And finally, the demonstrations which were allowed were very small, and the Pride, which was prohibited, turned into a massive protest. 200,000 people on the streets, and the streets are not narrow in Budapest. Huge streets full of people. It was amazing.
I mean, I think we all have seen all the images, and we were all thrilled because, as you are mentioning, there was a bit of maybe tension atmosphere just before, because you don't know what you are going to find there. And as you are saying, the government were authorizing contra march, actually far right ones. So it was a bit tense. I understand.
It was tense indeed, and what is crazy is when we go as MEPs, as members of the European Parliament, to a mission, we have security briefings when we go in a country where there is crisis, where it's dangerous. But here we went into a European member state and we got these security briefings. Yeah. So that was the crazy situation. But once I saw all the people coming, streaming to this place where we departed, and we had to wait 1.5 hours before we could move, because it was huge.
So
the
crowded,
whole,
yeah.
And then I felt totally safe, and I know this is so big, and people from the whole Budapest and also from the whole country were there. And then we felt safe. It was really, I had no more fears or no more apprehension. You saw that this is bigger, and that Orbán the contrary happened to what he wanted.
Yeah,
People were not afraid. They came with the children. Those with the children were even double exposed, Yeah. They went to an assembly which was forbidden by a law, but also they brought children, and this whole law, crazy law, which Orbán did, is to protect children, and so they said, we don't care, we are courageous, and we are not afraid of your laws, which are which do not comply with European legislation and with our European fundamental rights. So they're clever, the people.
Pride in Brussels is one of the best days of the year. It's a big party. They take over the city centre. It's like that in a lot of European countries, and you don't even think about it as being a protest. It's a party. I guess, I know you were saying that you felt more relaxed once it started, but for many of these people there was a real risk. Do you think they're going to start? Surveillance was approved. Do you think they're going to start getting letters through the door from the police? How brave did you have to be to attend that as a Hungarian?
They had to be very brave, and let me say, there is fines for those who attend, up to 500 euros, because they use facial recognition. And every time we passed these cameras on the street, people were yelling and applauding and not afraid. That was also a very strong message. But the organizers, are even threatened to have bigger. They can be imprisoned. And the day before the Pride, we had a reception reception at the mayor's at the town hall, and first of all, the mayor is amazing. But Victoria, which is a friend of mine now, she's the president of Budapest Pride, Victoria Radvani, and she made a wonderful speech. And there again, she said something which was like also very scary. She said, I hope you stand with me if in 2 days maybe the police comes and gets me at night, takes me away from my wife and my 3 children. Well, wife, she calls her partner wife because they cannot marry, but you know she and then we realized the risk they did in organizing this. So, but I think because it was such a success and the whole international media which were present, the presence of so many politicians from all over Europe, 70 members of the European Parliament, ministers from Spain, from other countries, mayors. The mayor of Barcelona was there. The mayor of Athens was there. By the way, from our political family, that was also nice to see. And there were so many politicians from all over Europe. And I think the media attention, I think they will not dare to find, but we have to see this and we have to follow up this development and also raise awareness and continue to push the Commission to be active.
Now you are mentioning this, like we were there, colleagues like the Greens, the Left, the Liberals were there. Were you missing other like pro-European groups that were actually not showing?
I wish the EPP had been more present. I must admit that. The wonderful Maria Walsh from EPP was there. She was the only MEP there present and very vocal. It's a pity that not more of them were there. The other groups were really well represented, and then you had this one person, but she gave a strong message, and she fights within EPP. I hope that EPP realizes that LGBTIQ plus rights are very important to defend, because and this whole that they will be on our side when we push the Commission to take action, to take infringement procedures. We need the votes of the EPP in the Parliament also to continue to put pressure. It was no EPP Hungarian politician was present. We have to remind them and push them to be on the right side in this on the right side. I mean the proper side.
Exactly. Yeah. It's really interesting what you are saying, because in the end, LGBTQ plus rights are just human rights. So I don't understand how now in 2025 we need to still fighting for something that for us it's so just obvious, right? Like
it is obvious, but the far right, and there is this anti-gender movement, international anti-gender movement, very well financed, very well organized, and they spend this narrative of gender ideology, and it is like a gift fallen from the sky to the far right. They pick that up to divide society. But there is no gender ideology. There is no LGBTIQ plus agenda. All we walk there on the streets was to fight discrimination, equal rights, the union of equality, which is very dear to us progressives. Just that's it. But they try to make believe people that progressive parties, they only care about LGBTI rights. They don't care about workers' rights. Not right. We work much more on the social dimension, but we do not forget the union of equality. All this goes hand in hand. You measure the degree of democracy and freedom in a country on how a government treats its minorities, and therefore it's so important to be present at a Pride. But this does not mean that's all we do. I'm so proud that our group was really very well represented, but it was good that we had a lot of colleagues from Renew, the Liberals, the Greens and the Left. It showed that this is a human rights agenda. There was no competition who is the most pro-human. We were all there together, and we saw this is not a moment to become political. This is now we have to stick together because we defend the European values, we defend fundamental rights, we defend human rights, and LGBTI rights are human rights. A lot of women were present too, because they also know that first the LGBTIQ plus community is attacked, and then it's women's rights. I saw these 2 interviews where they interviewed two young mothers who said, well, this is the first time I come to a Pride because I know it's more, and I want my child to grow up in a free society, in a democratic society, not to be afraid of what this child will be when the kid grew up. So that was so impressive to hear these people who said this is the first time we come to a Pride, because they knew what it was about.
I was looking at Peter Magyar's comments about it, and he seemed to want it to just be the extension of that. He wanted it just to be about democracy, and it was about democracy and things like that, but at the same time it was a Pride. So I think there's that tension for the EPP that to the right of them there is this anti-gender movement, or like Viktor Orbán talks about wanting to return Europe to its Christian roots, whatever that means. Not that Christians can't be pro-LGBT, but like, do you think that tension is gonna be a problem for the EPP, or are they happy to just live in it?
For me, it's a question of conscience. You cannot, you should never be afraid to stand for what you believe in. You know, I'm gay, and I didn't become gay because I watched, well, at the time Netflix didn't exist but you don't become gay because you read a book with a gay character, or you don't become gay because you meet a gay person on the street, or you have a gay teacher, or so being an LGBTIQ plus person is an identity and not an ideology. And actually, I once said it in a speech in the plenary. This law on which they call child protection law is not protecting children, it's putting children into danger, because a lot of young LGBTIQ plus teenagers, they commit suicide because they don't they feel bullied, they feel they cannot develop normally. And when I was young and the society wasn't as tolerant, I had friends who committed suicide because they thought there's something wrong with me, and they couldn't deal with this pressure. And now what Viktor Orbán is doing, it's also pushing young people to commit suicide. That's why I say they have blood on their fingers. And on the other hand, it's also very important to talk about in school on comprehensive sexual and relationship education is so important, because you make young people much more resilient against sexual assault, etc. If they know their body parts, if they can express what they are. So of course it has to be age adapted, and of course you have to talk at a certain moment on LGBTI issues, on gender identity, because this is a reality now. What they do is not protecting children, but not teaching children about real life is putting them into danger.
I think you are really right. In the end, what is the best for kids and to be, a nice grow up men or women is to learning tolerance, right? Like, know that you are surrounded by people that can love whoever they want. Know that you are okay if you are feeling this or that way.
And having role models, that they see role models.
Indeed.
It's voila.
Yeah, personally, whenever I have conversations with people that are to the right of me, and they, they're not homophobic by any stretch of the imagination, but they express something that you touched upon, this idea that, things are really difficult for people at the moment, and you're going on about Pride all the time, and I think that the answer to that is quite simply that LGBTIQ people exist everywhere, and if they are growing up under a regime that's telling them that it's unnatural or wrong, then it's going to, even if they don't commit suicide, they're going to live worse lives.
It has been proven that diversity and inclusion also economically is very profitable. Companies who do diversity and inclusion policies, the atmosphere is better, there's more output. Imagine if you're an LGBTIQ plus person and you have to stay in the closet, you have to hide all day, 8 hours at work, you cannot be yourself. Imagine how different you are, and how much you lose of energy, and how much energy you spend in trying to protect yourself, and you cannot be productive. Just let everybody be the way they are. And we were lucky as gays and lesbians that we had people who fought for our rights 100 years ago. And when you were the only gay in the village, as we say, people went to cities, they met, and they saw that they are not there's nothing wrong with them, and that there's many other people like them. And internet opened all these doors for gender identity, for trans people, intersex persons even more. And by the way, intersex, it's not about ideology, that's biology, That's why also in the LGBTIQ plus intergroup in the European Parliament, we focus a lot on trans rights and on intersex rights, because these people are much more vulnerable, even much more attacked. They are used to divide. I mean, what happened in the UK shows also that they want to divide the LGBTI community and the women's movement. I think it's important to go to prides and to talk about LGBTIQ plus rights. Of course, and again, this does not prevent us from addressing the cost of living crisis, which we constantly do, and we work on that. So it goes hand in hand.
Exactly.
And we have to counter the easy narrative of this far-right movement, which is all built on lies and disinformation and manipulation of people. It's very important to meet people, to know the families. And, I was a member of Luxembourg National Parliament, and we worked on a law on gender identity, and I worked a lot with the associations, with activists, but then also with the parents. And that was very useful, the parents went to see all political parties, and when we passed the law, only 3 MPs, even the centre-right, voted in favor of the law, because they knew this could be my neighbor, my cousin, to see, talk to people, learn about them, and then the parents told them, this is not my kid who one day decides to be different. And this is also something. When I came out gay when I was 18, some people also said to me, "Oh, you just want to be a bit different. You want attention." Exactly what they tell now these young trans persons who realize that they can come out as a trans person. Because if you talk to these trans persons who came out when they were 50, 55, 60, the older trans people, they all tell you it was coming out or suicide. They couldn't bear it anymore. So it's good that young people come out, and they do not come out as trans because they want attention or they feel it. They feel it since they are kids. Like I knew it very young already that I was gay. So. And therefore, that's why I'm like such an ally now of the trans people, because I have this experience of, you want to be modern, you want to be different. No, I want to be who I am. And these young trans persons, they want to be who they are. That's exactly what it is about. Thank God there is internet now, and they can get information much more earlier and see what it is about and see how they can transition. It's important to stand with the trans community and defend them, because they are being attacked. I always say, leave these people alone. Leave them alone.
Yeah, they're not hurting you. But is the transphobia now different to like the homophobia was in the 80s? Because it's the same kind of thing, isn't it? It's kind of like...
It's hate, fear. It's a lot linked to fear and insecurity of... maybe some people have problems with their own sexual identity, etc. It's like... That's why we should talk more about sex, and that's why I'm such a defender of sexual and relationship education in school, to come back to that subject, especially in a world where porn is present on kids. So to see that, talk about love, sex and love and everything is these taboos. We should get rid of these taboos and prepare our young people to have a healthy life.
Amen.
I mean, we totally agree with what you are saying. And if I want to catch a nice message from this conversation, is that sometimes it's not just about to resist, the aggressions, but also to be in the action, right? Like going to this kind of events even when they are threatening you, like, oh no, you will pay a whatever amount of money bill, or the police will be there, or a far-right protest is going to also be present. It's about like not giving it them, being there, about meeting people, as we are saying, about trying to put yourself in the shoes of the other one.
Going to that pride is also to show no fear, no intimidation by an illiberal autocrat. We haven't talked much about that. There was a lot of European flags there too, because it was... And I took my two hearts. I took my heart as an LGBTIQ plus activist, but I also brought my European heart. And that's why I was having on one side the European flag, on the other side the rainbow flag, because it was also, about our European values, to say to Mr. Orbán, stop it, because you are writing a playbook. Others will copy it, and that's why we pushed also the Commission to react and to come to infringement procedures. This is very important. This was to protect the LGBTI community, to show solidarity, but it was also to go against those who want to to break our European Union from the inside, to divide us from the inside. And I mean, the whole narrative Orbán he took it from Putin. This so-called child protection law is the copy of the Russian LGBTI, anti-LGBTI propaganda law. And again, this is to divide us, to spread hate, etc. And so this Pride was for me, yes, solidarity, fighting for LGBTI rights, but also defending our wonderful European Union, our treaties, Article 2, rule of law, fundamental rights, democracy. This was very important. Yeah, it's a trend. We have to go more on the streets. I mean, you know, I had the choice that day in Luxembourg was a huge protest against the government not having good, proper social dialogue. In Luxembourg, there was a pension reform, and it was a huge success. People went on the streets. The prime minister the government was a bit also surprised that the mobilization was so big, because people at a certain moment say, no, I mean, we are there and listen to us. So it's good to have protests. And I watched on my phone the pictures from Luxembourg. Of course, it was another dimension. It's small. It's not. But also there was a picture of a bridge full of people, and people came out to say, listen, we want to have a say and we want to be included, listen to us. And that's important. I mean, that's democracy. The right to assemble is a fundamental right, and that's why we defend it so much. And it's good that people go on the streets. If the peaceful demonstrations, I mean, you have always to be peaceful, no violence. Peaceful demonstration, express yourself, the freedom of expression, say what you believe in, stand for what you believe in. And therefore, I think it's good to get mobilized and go on, take the streets for an issue you believe in. I mean, the young people 5 years ago, the climate activists, we wouldn't have had the legislation if the young people wouldn't have pushed us to do that. Unfortunately, now we're backtracking on it a bit, and I hope they will. The young people will go out on the streets and say, listen, Friday for Futures was important, and we are there. Don't mess with us. So it's good when people are on the streets peacefully, of course.
Speaking about defending fundamental rights, did the Commission do enough? What were the NGOs or the charities you're speaking to in Hungary telling you about what the Commission should have done?
Well, they were a bit disappointed, I must say honestly, because this law to ban the Pride came out mid-March. So when we are in end of June, that's 3.5 months, if I'm correct. And they were a bit, but then they were happy that at least at the very end, President von der Leyen made a very vocal video and showed solidarity and called on Viktor Orbán not to ban the Pride. The Commissioner for Equality, Hajj Labib, was in Budapest also, and that was important too. But now we need action. They really have to come with action. But you know, there is a court case against this law of 2021, the so-called child protection law, which is banning all LGBTI propaganda. And it's for the first time that the Commission is backed by 15 member states and the European Parliament in this court case. And the opinion of the Advocate General came out on June 5th. And it's a very positive opinion, which says that this law is not only going against directives such as the Services Directive and the Audiovisual Directive, but also targets the Article 2, our treaty, and the Fundamental Rights Charter. So this human rights dimension is in that opinion. So let's hope that there will be the judges will follow the opinion of the Advocate General. And I felt also in the last that the member states are getting nervous, and because they are seeing that Orbán is writing a playbook, and they see that other far-right leaders take that narrative, and maybe some prime ministers try to go on that direction. And therefore, I have the feeling the whole Article 7 procedure is this article in the treaties where if a country doesn't comply with the rule of law, you can take them away the right to vote in the council. And you know, Orbán is always the one to come with vetoes when it comes to get more support to Ukraine, etc. So I think that's also, there's a whole awareness now, and we need action. And the Parliament, and believe it, S&D, the Socialists and Democrats, and hopefully supported by other progressive forces, will continue to remind the Commission. We kept that video of Ursula von der Leyen, we kept it, and we will remind her, because this law Orbán the government of Orbán passed to ban the Pride also includes facial recognition, and all this is going against the AI Act. We need infringement procedures again, and put pressure and set precedents, because if Orbán can do what he wants, well, others will say, okay, we don't need to comply to European law anymore, to European values. Nothing happens. So that's why it's important that the Commission should continue to react. And they are sometimes slow, but I really think that they understood the message, and I have high hopes that something will happen.
Just to start to closing a bit this conversation, we have talked a lot about European situation, what happened in Hungary. Also, we slightly mentioned other countries that even if they are progressive, not everything is like a fairy tale. Spain just has celebrated his 20 years since they approved the equal marriage, and still we see every day homophobic aggression. So there is a lot of work that is still to be done. But what is your opinion about more global situation?
There's still 6 countries in the world where you have death penalty for consensual same-sex relation. That's crazy. And in a lot of countries, it's in the penal code, it's forbidden. I mean, and we as an intergroup had resolutions on that too. And here again, the anti-gender movement is also very, very present. The evangelical church, this in some countries the influence, and they're trying to, in Africa especially, and trying to portray the LGBTI or homosexuality as an import from the West, etc., which is not true. If you listen to historians of African history in the past, there was in Uganda, for example, a homosexual king a few centuries ago. So it's all. Yeah, so worldwide the situation is not easy either. It's like I get messages from people from Iran, on social media, from people in some African countries where they're very scared and very afraid. That's why in the equality strategies of the European Union, the gender equality strategy and the LGBTIQ strategy that the Commission published 5 years ago, and we are working on the new one, there's also has to be an external dimension on it. And in our foreign policies, support civil society. And when I travel for the parliament in the delegations I always try to meet the LGBTI civil society to see what is the situation in countries. And sometimes I see how hard it is for them in certain parts of the world. Therefore, in Europe, we're quite privileged, I must say.
The contrast is just crazy, isn't it? And I think we spoke on the podcast 2 years ago about Pride being a party or a protest, and it's just. I mean, obviously, here in Brussels, I can't speak for the lived experience of gay people, but it seems to be pretty open and free.
Yes. But still, there is sometimes homophobic attacks. But still, that happens everywhere. But here you can be who you are without a problem. I mean, even me as a politician, was never hiding. Well, I come from Luxembourg. We had for 10 years a gay prime minister. For 8 years, the gay there was even the vice prime minister was gay. Nobody cared. I mean, that was not a subject. Nobody, you're doing politics, and nobody cares what you do in your private life or who you love. I mean, But
well, that's a bit of hope, because I was thinking it's depressing, the contrast, but maybe that's a bit of hope. Hopefully Hungary will be like that one day.
Yes. You see countries where we thought they were so Catholic, where divorce was forbidden 20 years ago, like Malta, now number one on the map of ILGA. Ireland, there was a referendum. And it has, I mean, people can separate it. It has nothing to do with religion, and they can separate it. You can keep traditions and everything, and be tolerant and respect human rights. I mean,
things have changed.
We continue to fight. That's why the fight is never over.
So now for a massive change in atmosphere, I have a quick quiz on LGBT history for the two of you. Okay. So last week we did our quiz. It was me against Andreas Schieder.
Yes.
I beat him, obviously. So
it was tight, huh?
It was tight. So now you're up against Irene. The first answer gets a pin.
Yeah.
The person with the most pins wins the bag.
The bag of love.
It's a nice bag, right?
It's a really nice one.
You have to want it, otherwise the whole premise falls down.
I'll fight for that bag.
You've got to fight for it.
I will. Let's see.
No letting him win, because,
I mean, you won last time, so
I
now...
I did win.
I need to win too.
All right. So, everyone ready?
Let's go.
Don't look at my. You can't see my screen.
No.
Don't look at my
Go
screen.
ahead.
Pretty easy. So you just jump in. Jump in. Which was
Mm-hmm.
the first EU country to legalize same-sex marriage?
Netherlands.
So Mark was there first. I thought you were going to say Spain. A lot of Spanish people think it's Spain, but they were a bit after. So it's 2001. So ILGA Europe, they rank EU countries in terms of how friendly their policies are to LGBT plus people. Which is the best country in
Malta.
the EU? Sorry, I haven't given you a pin. You did just say it.
Oh my God. This.
So-
Okay, keep going. Keep going.
So
I will survive.
This question is about football. I want to talk about LGBT people in football, and obviously we all agree that the greatest footballing league in the world is in England. So I've used that as an example.
Well,
So the top 4 divisions in England, there's 20 teams in each division. They've got a squad of about 35 each. How many out LGBT players are there in the men's top 4 divisions in England? How many out gay players?
1.
0.
It's 1. It's 1. Jake Daniels.
Mark, you are destroying me. Literally. Oh my God.
But that's crazy. So that's like, I don't know, like 3,000 people.
Yeah.
It's
And
crazy.
just
Like,
one.
It is crazy.
I don't understand the football thing. Like, it's just never. Yeah. Anyway, when was the Stonewall riots?
1969.
That's not right.
Wait. Then I would say 68.
Sorry, it's 69. I'm so sorry. I've written the wrong
Okay,
thing.
good.
I'm so
185.
sorry.
You
I'm so
see,
sorry.
guys, he's trying to make me lose.
No,
Okay.
I've written and crossed it out. Okay, so this is a double question for 2 pins, but you can answer both. So, which year was the first Pride in Europe?
1982.
Christopher Street Days, they were called in Germany, they started doing it, and it was called Christopher Street Day, CSD, because, I would say 72.
I need a year. So you said 72, you said when?
82.
It's 71. I don't want to give it. I haven't really given a rule. I'll tell you, if we got which country was the first?
I would say UK then, or Germany.
Netherlands.
It was London and Ireland. So I'm
UK.
going to give you a pin.
Mark.
I'm going to give you a pin.
Okay,
Mark,
no,
you're running away with
I
it.
can already leave, guys. Right? I mean,
Which EU country was the first to have an openly LGBT prime minister? Or
Luxembourg.
Luxembourg, yeah. And then Ireland had
it's
it
Belgium,
later.
no? It's Belgium.
it's Belgium.
Elio de Rupo was
Yeah, but
before.
he was not before Xavier. He was during Xavier. Or maybe it can be
It's
Belgium.
Elio de Rupo. I'm sure it is.
When was he
Belgium.
prime minister?
When was Elio de Rupo prime minister? He was prime minister on the 6th of December 2001. And Xavier Bettel was 2 years later.
Yeah, then it's Belgium. Yeah.
Did you say Belgium?
No.
No, neither you said Belgium.
I said
Yeah,
Luxembourg.
okay.
Oh.
But I thought he was
We are
prime
so
minister
sorry.
in 2015, around to the same time as Xavier. Sorry, then.
They did overlap, but
They
he was their
overlap.
prime minister 2 years before.
Okay, wonderful. By the way, he's a wonderful colleague. And he was in Budapest too.
Was he? Great.
Yes, of course. Elio
Nice.
is a wonderful.
We are so sorry for
colleague.
not knowing this one.
So when did Liechtenstein legalize gay marriage? Same-sex marriage?
That's not so long ago.
2009.
24.
It's 2000. It was this year.
Oh
This
my
year,
God.
not this year. This
Okay,
year,
you
yeah.
see, clueless. Then mini point for Mark.
No. He's doing far too well. So, when did Spain have its first openly LGBT MP in the Cortes Generales? He was from Gran Canaria. I've given you his gender. The first time they had an openly gay MP.
2000.
I would say 1989.
I'm gonna give it
No,
to Renee,
2002.
It was 2000, so I'm going to give it to you.
Okay, thank you.
So a bit
The pity
embarrassing.
love.
The flag we have behind is actually out of date, so you'll be familiar with the new LGBT flag.
Yeah.
What does the circle and the new LGBT flag represent?
Intersex.
Oh, oh,
Oh my God, little by little, huh?
oh,
Mark,
oh,
watch
oh.
out.
It's going pretty well. Okay, so finally, the final question is how many members does the LGBTI intergroup have? Sorry, this is a bit... Mark should know this.
We used to have 160 in the last mandate,
Yeah, but
and
this
now we are
mandate.
over 100. We are at the 103, I would say.
In order to don't make myself in a more shameful place, I'm not even gonna try.
Yes, it's around 100, yeah.
Around 100.
We're going to give it to you. Well
But
done,
we're
Marc.
keeping on to
Marc.
get more.
Well
again.
done, Marc.
Yeah. Thank you
You get
very
the
For
much.
bag.
next time,
You
I
get
need
the
to
bag.
study
Yeah,
way
thank you.
more.
Get the
You
bag.
get
Yeah.
it? Can you show
I
it
have
to
to
the
say,
camera?
my-
It is really cool.
It's
But
a
I have
bag.
very good news for you. I will give it to you
Oh.
because I got one of these. I got one of these in Budapest. I got
Yes.
even 2 of these because we had also great T-shirts and I forgot to
Nice.
wear it today. But
No
here,
worries.
so Irina, it's for you.
Thank
magnanimous.
you.
Wow.
Yes, you see, sometimes guys being friendly, it's worth it.
Sometimes,
Really-
I mean, thank
So
you.
sometimes.
You're really destroying the integrity of the competition. But okay.
Thanks, Marc.
No, thanks so much. Thanks so much for coming on, Marc. And yeah, I can't tell if I'm depressed or pleased about the subject, but this is exciting. This is optimistic.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of people protesting when it was illegal. That's amazing.
Indeed,
Yeah.
indeed.
It was so nice to bring these screens, to have these screens with the images again. It's
Yeah.
wow. It's
And if
amazing.
you're listening, because obviously we'll put this on Spotify and places like
Yeah.
that, we have ongoing footage of hundreds of thousands of people walking through Budapest with LGBT flags. There's some men kissing there, like on a bridge.
And I'm
Cool.
happy I went, and
Nice.
I'll be back.
Where next?
Amazing.
Let's keep sending you on prides all over Europe.
Well, we have the Luxembourg Pride. 2 weeks ago. I was in Sofia too, in Bulgaria, which is yeah. But it's important to go to the prides. But it's not only the Pride March; it's the whole conferences around it. Human rights conferences. There is a lot of events linked to it, which is also important, and to support the activists in these countries where it's more difficult, where they really fight hard.
Yeah.
If they see Brussels' presence, because they are looking towards the European Union, they are looking towards Brussels. They say things are slow in our member states. Please defend our rights. So they have high hopes in Brussels, and therefore we cannot disappoint them, and therefore we have to fight for them and be with them and show solidarity.
I think this is an amazing last message to close this conversation. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Marc, for coming, for being
Yes.
part of this,
Yes.
amazing march to show that we're stronger together, as we always like to say. And for all of you guys, thank you so much for, keep the track on this amazing podcast. See you next time. And yeah,
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you for
listening to Take a
coming.
Left.
Thank you for having me.
No, thanks for coming.
Thank
next time.
you.
Until next time.
Bye.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.
The resolution is adopted.